right. Okay, 1 second here.
Yeah, let me know when you want me to start recording, and then either I can go live now, so it's already in YouTube, or I can send it to you.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I'll just have you send me the recording once this is done. Or you can go live right now. But yeah, I'm streaming on TikTok and YouTube. I just fired mine up. And then hopefully, if we do have some time at the end, I know you said we can slot in an hour, hour and a half. Maybe then we can go through some Q&A at the end, potentially.
Sure.
So, yeah, whenever you're ready, I'm ready to go.
All right, I'm going live then.
All right, Patrick. So, thank you for having this conversation with me. I know we've already generated a lot of interest into this project just in my community. As soon as we saw that you put out that notice on your guys' official position on the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit, I started to get our attention. And so I just want to open up by letting you kind of introduce yourself and your company.
Okay. I'm Patrick Riley. I'm the CEO of Reaper Financial. We are a new startup. We opened up in just December here, and in about 3-4 weeks, we've had a great deal of success with our cryptocurrency RPR. Basically, what we do is we buy and destroy other cryptocurrencies. It's not as ominous as it sounds. Basically, what we're doing is reducing the supply to match the demand, so that the true value of that currency can be found apart from the bear market and bull market of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. So basically, the general concept is you're going to add more value to these coins by making them more scarce, right?
Exactly. It's not any different than if someone was to go buy a large amount, and then that whale was to lose the keys, or just if they held indefinitely forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. So what made you decide to create this project on the XRP ledger?
So I've been planning on doing this project for about 4 years, since the 2017 bull cycle, and I didn't quite have the know-how or the technologies available to me until recently with the XM services and XRPL services, Ripple's Toolkit. And really it was about price, sustainability, and technology. XRP is the fastest, it's the cheapest, and it's the most reliable, sustainable cryptocurrency out there in my mind. I think that the trustless transfers gives it a real chance of moving into the next 30 to 50 year time frame of where cryptocurrency will be in a near future.
Yeah, so it's been interesting to watch recently with all the new meme coins and XR Doge and all the nonsense that's kind of been going on the XRP ledger. But the beauty of that is that it is showing the decentralized nature, the permissionless nature of the XRP ledger. So I've been saying, here while we're watching this go down, this is all part of the growing pains of the XRP ledger. And, I like to see it, right? I like the fact that anyone can create their own little meme coin and put it on the XRP ledger, or someone who has a more serious project that actually has utility, like yourself. Now, I want to get into Reaper Financial towards the end, but I think most people are going to want to get your take on XRP in this lawsuit. That official position that you guys took on the legal proceedings was one of the most clear-cut responses for why, if they were to basically take XRP out of our circulation, force us to give it back to them, on why the Constitution would have us covered for just and fair compensation, like you said. So you explained it so perfectly well. Do you want to expand on that and kind of explain your official position for our audience here?
Sure. So I'll expand a little bit. So my position or my company's position is not necessarily a defense of Ripple Labs, nor is it specifically a hit piece against the SEC, though that may be well deserved under certain opinions. What we are specifically talking about is how this plays out to the XRP holders and those who are using the XRP ledger. So we don't want the government coming in and telling us that our property is somehow not our property. If they were to see fit that we can no longer possess XRP, then they do owe just compensation for said XRP. And that just compensation is a calculation of the total debts, assets, and liabilities of the US dollar, because the United States dollar is, per the Bretton Woods Agreement, the global reserve currency, and it's currently completely unbacked by anything. Mm-hmm. XRP is backed by hard mathematics, and given that it has a solid foundation in the digital universe, that means that the US dollar, having no foundation whatsoever at this point, must be divided amongst those XRP.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to say that the only thing backing the US dollar at this point is the largest military known to mankind, right? I mean, there's nothing backing this coin or this currency. And yeah, so I think that you made a really good point in that official position that you took. Now, I do want to get just your quick take on this. What do you think is going to happen this month? What's your speculation on the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit?
So my speculation is that none of this was by accident, and the timing is never a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I think that as the Bitcoin bull market ends in likely April, that is when the SEC case against Ripple Labs will likely also end, and that will give Ripple the ability and timing to surpass Bitcoin as the number one cryptocurrency and run away from there. Wow. I think that's the most likely scenario.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bullish outlook for XRP. Yeah, just in talking about Bitcoin in this market, to me, it looks like this thing is wrapping up. The Bitcoin bull run is over, in my opinion. I don't think that another top is going to come in unless we get some sort of mass injection stimulus again. But that being said, I take a similar position. I think that this is the most staged lawsuit in the history of the SEC, right? Jay Clayton met with Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz back in 2018. We know that from his public calendar. And so, yeah, I call this the most staged lawsuit in the history of the SEC. And we already know that XRP was deemed a currency back in 2015 by FinCEN in that prior lawsuit that was settled up. So, yeah, I mean, they never really had a case. So, do you think that this thing is going to be settled up, or and how does that look? Do you think they're going to give Brad and Chris a slap on the wrist fine?
Well, so I'm going to take this to kind of a higher strategic level, and I don't mean to go into a conspiracy mindset or anything like that. So, but I'm going to look at it from a higher level of who runs the SEC and who is invested in Ripple. So SBI Holdings has about a 12% stake of XRP, and the SEC takes their marching orders largely from the New York's Federal Reserve Bank, both of which are influenced by one large party. So when I saw that the SEC was suing Ripple Labs, I took that to mean that that party was suing itself, which comes to an end with clarity.
Yeah. I appreciate that you're willing to go there, because a lot of people in this day and age, we get labeled conspiracy theories for just connecting a few dots and thinking critically these days. So I appreciate that you're willing to take that stance. And that's been my whole thing with XRP since the very beginning. I didn't get into crypto till 2018, and then I got into XRP in 2019. But once you go down this rabbit hole and you go through all these connections, it's just like, well, what's really going on here, right? And so, okay. What do you think about the escrow account? Do you think that's the main target here that's under attack? And also, do you think that a deal will be worked out with the Federal Reserve or our Treasury Department for them to acquire some XRP, whether that's a buyback or my wish as an American citizen is that they cut a deal with Ripple to get some of the escrow account, maybe a deal to get some XRP. But what are your thoughts?
I think that's completely reasonable. If XRP were to become essentially the global reserve currency in a buyback scenario, and I'm not saying that will happen, I'm just saying that it would be constitutionally mandated if it did happen. So under that circumstance, you can't have Brad Garlinghouse and a few people at Ripple suddenly owning half the wealth of the world. That's just not a realistic outcome that anyone is going to accept.
Now, with the way the XRP ledger is set up, they would need an 80% consensus agreement to do something like that, right? Like to give up that escrow account or to burn the escrow account, which has been talked about previously. So do you think that that's even like possible if they were to, the Fed would have to make such a juicy deal that the validators would agree?
So it would definitely be possible, and the question is whether or not the Fed has the ability to influence those who hold the nodes, because if that 80% consensus takes place, what basically happens is those nodes are going to block that escrow account from being part of the ledger. It's no longer transferable on the ledger, and it just goes into cyberspace. So the Fed is probably very nervous that if they did take that as their escrow, validators or any number of people who build new nodes, potentially enemies of the United States, could build their own nodes, take over 80%, and suddenly they're just killing that escrow. So that is obviously a challenge in a buyback scenario.
Yeah. What's your opinion on Val Hill Capital and that group that put together the buyback proposal?
So I think it was a little bit hopium, if I'm honest, but I do think that the numbers make sense. If we're looking at the total debts, assets, liabilities of the U.S. dollar, we're looking in the ballpark of $300 to $500 trillion value. And the reason I say ballpark is because there's plenty of money printers out there which are not under control of the Federal Reserve. And a lot of people don't necessarily realize that, but the CIA, they make their own money. They are not accountable, and nobody knows how much they have or when they make it. That's just the way it is.
So when you're talking about how to value XRP, you're talking about $300 to $500 trillion. Did I hear that correctly? Right.
That's correct.
Right, because that's what you're saying the value of the U.S. dollar is now, or I guess the market cap of the United States dollar now, essentially.
That's correct.
Right. Yeah, so I was looking through the numbers after you put out your official position, and the numbers that they give us, $29 trillion in debt, that's just the tip of the iceberg. You have all the unfunded liabilities, which is over $100 trillion. So if you add in what I saw was about $6 trillion in assets that our government has. But explain that calculation a little bit more. $300 to $500 trillion. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So, and this goes a little bit into my own military background. But if you just take a look at, a few leaks over the years, which is what came out in the Edward Snowden documents, close to 21 trillion. If you look at the 2.3 trillion on September 10th, 2001, that the Pentagon lost.
Don't say that, Patrick. You're going to get us cut off here live.
Yeah. But
you're right.
Quite a bit of money, and it's about 5 to 6 years of snapshot, and you see about $30 trillion that disappeared from the books. So if we extrapolate that out back to the Bretton Woods Agreement, and we assume that similar ratios of money have been being printed throughout that time frame, we're looking at around $300 trillion in black budget alone.
Right. Okay. So I want to back out and clarify your official speculation and prediction here. So that's buyback scenario where they're taking control of the XRP and resetting the reserve currency status, basically. But we don't think that that's going to happen. We think that most likely this case will be settled up. What happens after that? You say that XRP will be on the road to the number one coin, to overtaking Bitcoin, which I do believe, but it's not going to take much for us to overtake Bitcoin, right? There's only $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, which we can get into market cap later, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so what's your official prediction, speculation after we get a settlement, whether that's in April, whether that's this month? I do think I like the idea there that this thing's going to get extended out. I don't like that idea, but I do believe that that's kind of what we're looking at, right? I like to say this thing's going to be wrapped up in a year regardless. Whether they push it out till April or they push it out till November, December of this year, it's going to be done in a year. So know what you hold and look at what XRP is actually going to do. But what's your opinion? What is going to be the future for XRP?
So just looking at it from a purely strategic and numbers standpoint, you have these other nations that are already adopting on-demand liquidity. Which is Japan, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates. You have the Euro is now the Digital Euro Foundation is working with Ripple Labs, and I think it's Electronium to create a digital euro. So whether the United States wants to or not, they're going to have to be interacting and dealing with and transferring in XRP, because once XRP has taken 30% of the market share of other nations on Earth that are transferring in CBDC and cryptocurrency, they're going to be market dominant. And until there is something to compete with that, and I don't think that there is at this time, the U.S. is going to adopt it, because that's kind of a given. It's the means of doing business at that point.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, but expanding on that, what do you see? Like basically, XRP is going to get clarity as a currency, and then do you think that basically the corridors are just going to start firing up the partnerships? Because we have 400 banks and financial institutions already partnered with Ripple, but once we get clarity, specifically on RippleNet, 25% of RippleNet is ODL using XRP right now, right? So people say, oh, you can use RippleNet without using XRP. That's true, but 25% of the network is using XRP with on-demand liquidity, and most of them are just waiting for regulatory clarity. So what's going to happen after they get that clarity? Corridors fire up, and I guess to get to the meat of it, and I know that you're not here to make a price prediction, but like, what do you think on that price over the next year, 5 years?
I mean, I think the low immediate, just based off speculative reaction of the market to Ripple winning or settling favorably in the lawsuit, will be $13 to $25 in the very short term. I think we would see over the next year Ripple grow to over $100 to probably progressively and slowly in a similar pace to, say, Tesla or Amazon in the stock market. We'll see it balloon out into the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars probably over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. It's funny because that's exactly what I say. I say within a year after the case is ended, we will be on the path to 3 digits within a year, right? I'm not expecting us to flip the switch and be at 3 digits as soon as the case settles up, okay? But yeah, after that happens, the corridors are going to start to fire up. The utility is going to start to come in. And I think you started to touch on this. To even get really started providing the liquidity, being that utility, you got to get XRP to a higher price. And 3 digits is kind of the base to even really get going, right? Right.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of the flip the switch term. I don't think that's how it's going to work. I don't think that the banks or the public would be very comfortable in that situation. I don't think there's going to be overnight billionaires holding XRP. That's a very unlikely way that, from a historical aspect, that anything ever plays out.
Right. They keep on pushing back for when they're going to update to ISO and all that. So we've seen Swift recently just said, I think November of this year, they want to move on over. And then we saw the American Bankers Association say November of next year. So we're getting multiple timelines. And they did say that they're doing like they actually said the word overnight kind of transfer, but they're going to give themselves time. They're going to make sure all their ducks are in a row. And as we've seen, we're getting stalled out here, right? A lot of us thought that we were going to kind of get that reset in 2020, and then last year in 2021, this thing's kind of drug along. We've injected, what do we do, $10 trillion last year alone, or however many trillions it was. So we're getting stalled out.
And people have to remember we're dealing with bureaucracy here. Just like the military, where we would switch. I think we switched in 2006 from BDUs, which was like a woodland camouflage pattern, into the ACUs, which was a digital camouflage pattern. It took us about 5 years for every soldier just to be wearing a new uniform. I don't think that the government at large is going to transition to a new financial system overnight. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, okay, one last thing, just so we're clear before we'll move on. I want to talk more about the XRP ecosystem and the other projects that are going on. You know, 5-digit XRP is like just blasphemy for a lot of people in the crypto space, right? But I think I did hear you say that you do think that we are on a path to 3, 4, and eventually 5 digits for XRP over the next, 5, 10 years.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it will sneak up on you. Nobody would have believed we'd be at a 5-digit Bitcoin 5 to 10 years ago, but here we are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that the viewers appreciate hearing that. But like we've been saying, this thing gets stalled out. It's not going to be an overnight deal. I keep on talking about a pump to $7 to $13, kind of similar targets for you, and then a 50 to 90% pullback in kind of a bear market scenario, financial collapse, where this is all part of the shakeout of XRP holders. I really think that they want to shake us out of this asset. It's not meant for average Joe Blows like us to buy our coffee with or to even tuck away under our mattress, right? They want it out of the hands of us for wholesale payments on the back end of the financial system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's continue on here. I want to talk about the XRP ecosystem and some of the other coins that we're seeing built out. We'll get into yours here shortly, but what's your opinion on Sologenic?
So Sologenic, I really like the DEX interface. I think that being able to do custom pairings has done wonders for all of the tokens out there. That basically they can launch, do their airdrop, and from day one they're tradable. So Sologenic definitely has a future in that regards as an exchange. I think they have some work to do on their token and the efficacy of their token, but I think they'll be successful long range, and it's definitely a long-term hold in my opinion.
Yeah. What about Quorum?
So I didn't dig deep into Quorum yet, so I'm a novice in that. I don't know much about it.
Okay. Yeah. Neither. I kind of traded the Sologenic play. I kind of just switched over some XRP to Sologenic, and then I exited Solo before the snapshot, kind of expecting that dump, and I was able to get a little bit more. Yeah, I was able to get a little bit more XRP that way, so that worked out. But I'm looking at the Sologenic developers, the guys at that team, and it does look solid. The decentralized exchange that they got looks good, and I'm excited about their NFT marketplace coming on top of the XRP ledger. I think that we need NFTs on not only XRP but any other project besides. Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Opinion on Flare.
So we talked with the Flare team, and they're a great bunch of guys. I like where they're going with it. My reservation with it is that we just have different mindsets about how we do business. I'm not a deeply techie knowledgeable programmer or anything like that myself. I have a developer and he's good, but myself, I'm looking at what can be done with what we have in front of us. Flare is kind of trying to build a space shuttle to fly from Miami to New York, whereas I would just drive.
Okay.
So I think it's just two different approaches, and that's fine. And I'm excited to see what they come out with, and I will invest in it myself. But it's a little bit more on the complicated side.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that are they just waiting for this lawsuit to settle up before they launch? Because they were supposed to launch in Q2 or Q3 of this last year.
That may be a portion of what they're doing. I think another portion is that, and this is in no means a dig at them. It's definitely doable, but there's an element of too good to be true there that I, as an investor myself, am concerned with because being able to stake XRP and get XRP interest, and then my F asset and my F interest, and four different streams of income on one individual token. It just seems a little bit like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop of like, oh, but it's not actually that much interest. It's not going
Okay.
to produce that much income. And so we'll see. And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. So let's move on to crypto in general. I want to get your thoughts on the rest of the crypto space. What's your quick take on the space right now in general?
So I will disagree with you on us going into a bear market right now. I think we're still in the bull market. I think I'll plug a random Twitter guy that I like to follow, and he's great at what he does as far as his analysis, the Rational Roots on Twitter.
I'll have to
And
check that out.
anytime I have doubts about the market, I go and I check what the Rational Root has to say
Okay.
because his graphing is amazing. So I think that we will bounce back up, and my projection that I've made a couple years back was 218,000 for the top for Bitcoin for this cycle. I still think that is a likely scenario, possibly
Wow.
by March.
How's that going to happen?
So once we bounce off the line that we're approaching right now, around 39,000, I suspect we'll be back in a full on run towards the top for a final parabolic move.
Really? Really? And do you think that that's just because there's institutional money ready to come back into the space in the new year?
Not just the institutional money, but in general, leveraged money, of course, plays a massive part of it. And the leverages are running out right now. The shorts are getting squeezed, and we're going to max fear right now of a 10 on the greed and fear scale, which generally for me is very bullish. So
Right.
personally, if I had anything that wasn't in my own company, I would probably be buying Bitcoin right now.
Really? That's fascinating. Now, I'm sure you don't consider yourself a Bitcoin maxi by any stretch, but you are a fan?
So of course I'm a fan. I think if you're in crypto, you should be a fan of Bitcoin while acknowledging its limitations, as some maxis fail to do. So Bitcoin was the first solid object in a digital universe, and it will probably always have value in that regard. I will say, however, that the total market cap of gold in the world is $8 trillion, while the total market cap of goods in the world is hundreds of trillions of dollars. So while Bitcoin's going to have its place and it's going to continue to grow, toilet paper is worth more than gold because there's more of it and it's a moving economy. So don't get wrapped around the axle of Bitcoin being the one and only. It's not the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a good take, I think, a fair take on Bitcoin. So basically, you're saying that we have institutional adoption, and then you just think that kind of just overall growth and adoption of crypto this year for the first 3-4 months of this year is going to continue to drive this up into spring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the quarterly inflation of the dollar is going to continue to increase. I think we're probably going to see, if it wasn't for cryptocurrency, we would be seeing something similar to the 70s and 80s where we have a good 10-year run of inflation. And I think every wise investor knows that the Fed saying it's transitory is their way of saying it's a 10 to 15 year transitory, not a 1 year transitory.
Right. Yeah, and I do get that argument for inflation being able to take Bitcoin to 100 and 200 grand. I get that. Um, do you think that we need more stimulus? Because the Federal Reserve is telling us that they're going to end their tapering in March and that they're going to raise interest rates 3 times this year. Those two
Yeah.
combinations, and then I think that regulations are going to bring in the bear market for crypto at some point this year. And I don't think it's going to be a regular 4 year cycle bear market and all that. What's your take on that?
So I would definitely say it's a very dynamic situation between COVID with our rate of inflation and tapering, but we also have Evergrande and the Chinese real estate market, which is going to affect the U.S. probably within the next year. And I think that all of those things combined are going to make a lot of people run for the hills and look for safe assets. And cryptocurrency is just much more accessible than any other means of safe asset, especially if real estate is crashing as well, which I expect that it will. Um, as far as how this bull market ends, I do suspect that will be when Tether crashes, and I think Tether is a ticking time bomb.
Amen. Amen. Now, it's not, you're not supposed to be talking about that. A lot of people don't like talking about that, right? But that is the truth of the matter. Anytime I make a video talking about Tether, it's like on TikTok, it'll get like no views and they'll just like shut it down. It's funny.
Yeah, it's a boring subject, right? But I mean, it's not that Tether is unbacked; it's that they needed to grow, and in order to back $70 billion without a bank, they had to give out loans, which is understandable, right? But they're not going to be the highest quality loans. They're not going to be a 3A banker's loan that's highly guaranteed. They're going to be high risk loans, and I think that right now they're about 50% deep in high risk loans in a market that's ready to collapse,
Yeah.
which would be the Chinese real estate market.
Yeah. I'll probably get shut down on my TikTok live stream right now by talking about this. But from my understanding, Tether has no relationship with Evergrande, but they are
Uh,
holding the most amount of Chinese commercial paper debt in the world. Is that true or?
so, I can't verify that. I don't know that that's true, but I do suspect that whether they're directly involved in Evergrande or not is kind of neither here nor there. I suspect that they're strongly involved in the market as a whole
Right. It's
in
all.
China, and the whole of the Chinese real estate market is about to have a very bad day at some point. I don't think that's avoidable.
Isn't China real estate one of the biggest assets in the world? Right.
Uh, so it is. It's one of the biggest bubbles,
Yeah.
because what they essentially do is they limited the number of homes that each Chinese citizen could own to 3 or 4 or something like that, and then that became kind of the only means of investment for most Chinese citizens. So what a lot of building companies would do is they'd go and build nothing but a hollow shell. There's no plumbing, no lighting, nothing but a cement structure, and that is what they were selling, almost like an I hate to say it, almost like an NFT that has no real value
Uh,
or usability, and that's how they pumped up that market. So when you're paying 200,000 US for a 400 foot square foot empty flat with no electricity or plumbing, clearly that market is not stable, and at some point it has to come down.
so talking about the macroeconomics and the relationship to crypto, basically you're saying that as things kind of start to fall apart, the flight to safety is going to be crypto.
I believe so. Yes, crypto has the exposure; it's well known, and the other factor a lot of people don't like to talk about is that baby boomers are exiting the workforce. They are at that age where they're going to want to draw their pensions. Hopefully, for their sake, a pension is there, even though there's a very large deficit in pensions and 401ks. So as those baby boomers exit, and as the millennials and Generation Z come into the market, you couldn't I have a 9-year-old child. I couldn't tell him that, like, in 10 years you're going to be writing checks. That would just be insane. So there's no way that as the baby boomers exit and the new generation comes in, that we don't end up in a digital market and digital economy, because that is the means of transaction for this generation.
Yeah, I remember hearing some crazy stat about how much of the world's wealth is going to be going into the hands of millennials here soon. It's kind of startling to see that. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but yes, um, I like to call this the greatest transfer of wealth in world history, or at least since World War II. You agree with that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree to that. It's going to be mind blowing. It's going to happen over 10 to 20 years. Some people will feel like nothing happened, and other people that take notice will see the true impact of it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's run through some more crypto stuff here. So, what do you think the future of Bitcoin and then Ethereum is?
So Bitcoin, I talked about a little bit. I think it will be essentially the digital gold, and it will survive, as a lot of cryptocurrencies probably won't. Ethereum, I think the smart contracts have their place. I think that Ethereum has grown to a point where it will survive as well, but it's got a lot of adapting. We'll see with Ethereum 2.0 what happens. Gas fees, obviously, right now are not user friendly. But with layer 2 applications and other things, Ethereum application will probably survive into the future just based on their popularity alone, not necessarily that it's the best technology available.
Sure.
With that said, XRP and Ripple Labs, I would be amazed if a multi-million or multi-billion dollar company like Ripple was not actively working on smart contracts in the background throughout this lawsuit, as that's one of their competitors' key strengths. So I think after the lawsuit, we will see smart contracts released on the XRP ledger.
Yeah, I came across, I don't know if it was a Medium post by Stefan Thomas from Ripple, but basically stating how Vitalik, when he was interning at Ripple, that's where he got the idea for smart contracts. He took that idea and ran with it, and when he couldn't, or actually he couldn't intern at Ripple, right? Or he couldn't get into the United States. I forget how that was. He was trying to come work for Ripple, but we didn't let him in.
That's our loss, I guess.
Right. And I think that Stefan Thomas did kind of admit that that was one of the faults or mistakes, that they kind of overlooked smart contracts from the beginning. Ripple did, but they were focused on payments, right? Okay, so Bitcoin has a future, ETH has a future. My opinion is that ETH is going to make it as well, but all of these competitors are going to limit basically the price and the growth of Ethereum, getting to some of these ridiculous price points that I hear some people throw out, just because I feel like that smart contracts place and all that's going on is so competitive. You have all of these, like if you look at the top 20 cryptos, most of them are Ethereum competitors. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think in the current cycle, because Ethereum has so many ERC20 tokens based off of it, and a lot of people kind of fail to do the math on the trading pairs, and this is why, every time Bitcoin or ETH drops, everything else is dropping. It's all about the trading pairs. So because Ethereum has so many ERC20 tokens out there leeching off of it, I feel like those are still going to pump it up past 11,000 in this cycle.
Okay.
I think that's totally reasonable. And then without an adjustment, without Ethereum 2.0 being successful, they may have a much harder time in the next cycle.
Yeah. Quick take on the Ethereum free pass. What's your opinion on that?
There's so much politics in there, and there's key players in this that have made political donations and received political donations and lobbying, and I realize that's the way that the world works right now. And I spoke a little bit about this strategic level over the Federal Reserve, over the SEC, and over Ripple, that is in a common interest. So I don't know that it was necessarily a free pass. I think that Ethereum is being actively used by by certain players. And I think it was more of Ethereum had one application, and this lawsuit against XRP is another intentional application to give XRP clarity.
Right. Is there any crypto that's a sleeper that not necessarily that you hold, obviously not financial advice, but is there any crypto project that you are looking at that's not really well known that you want to throw out there?
Well, so aside from plugging our own, which we're new in the space, and I know I'll get a chance to talk about Reaper. So the other one I would say is a big time sleeper is Banca AI. Banca AI is basically web crawlers on a ARPANET algorithm, and they are what they're able to do is essentially change a smart contract in motion. So it's learning on the blockchain, is my understanding. So they aren't very well known at all. They've been out since last bull cycle, or actually just after the last bull cycle. They came out in 2018, and because of their timing, they've had very little adoption. So,
what was the name of that again?
Banca AI, BANCA.
BANCA.
And I'm not BANCA, and I'm not affiliated with them. In full disclosure, yes, I do own some Banca tokens, but I do think they're an underappreciated asset that will someday see its impact in the market.
Yeah. Quick take. I'm kind of throwing you on the spotlight here. Is XRP, which you don't have to answer this, is XRP your biggest holding?
No, it's not.
Is it? Okay. I'm assuming you have just a couple XRP tucked under the mattress, though.
Yes. Just in case.
Just in case. Cool, man. Okay, last thing on the overall crypto space. How do you think that regulations are going to hit in the United States this year, next year, whenever they figure it out? What's your predictions on crypto regulations?
So it's going to be a little bit ugly for a few years, and that's kind of just an American pastime of ugly politics and ugly regulation. It's going to be a fight, and I think that the politicians that are currently in office, or the large majority of them, really just don't understand cryptocurrency at all. The majority of them, this is just gibberish. They don't get it, and so I think there's room for a lot of that new generation to step into politics using cryptocurrency as their springboard, because they understand the new economy, and it's going to be very difficult, I think, in 5 to 10 years for anybody to step in to run for office that doesn't understand cryptocurrency and how those economic factors play in.
So now tightening in here, what is your take on the ICOs? Do you think that they're going to try to really come at all of these ICO offerings? Because Jay Clayton and Gary say that 90% of these are securities offerings.
Yeah, so I'm going to say something extremely unpopular here, and it might get me blocked by one or two people. I think that not only will they go after the ICOs, I think that they should go after the ICOs. I support the SEC in that, if that is what their mission is. And I know that's unfavorable, but the reality is selling a token pre-launch, basically, to me, all that says is that you don't believe in your tokenomics and you don't have a real product. So my own token, we did nothing but a free airdrop. So I'm not a fan of ICOs in any way, shape, or form. I think it's disingenuous to the blockchain and the nature of cryptocurrency.
That is definitely an unpopular opinion. That not only are they going to go after, but that you support them. It's like you're an SEC shill.
No,
I'm just messing.
I
agree.
I've been in government for 15 years in the military, and I understand there is a reason for certain things being the way they are. I think that ICOs are a bad thing for the crypto economy, and that if the SEC goes after that and thereby prevents future ICOs, that is a good thing for the crypto economy.
Yeah, and I'm just messing with you, Patrick. I 100% agree with you. I agree with you 100%, and I've been saying this, and it's not popular. right? When I come on TikTok or YouTube and I say that 90% of cryptos are probably going to go away because one, they don't even have the one, they don't have a real utility, they don't solve a real problem. But two, they don't even have the funds or the means to fight the SEC in a legal battle. They'll just turn the key and say, we give up, or head for the hills and go hide on an island somewhere.
Yeah, if they didn't step into this space expecting a fight with the regulatory forces, then they weren't serious about launching their cryptocurrency, which is why I wasn't afraid to publish our official position. Because instead of waiting for the SEC to come to me, I'm going to go to them. I'm going to tell them, hey, this is how we see it. If they see it differently and they rain on my parade, at least they're doing it now when we're a month old and not 2 years down the road. So
Well, and I really respect that, because that takes a lot of courage to do that, to do things the right way. And that's what not only America needs, but the crypto space across the world needs, is entrepreneurs like yourself, business leaders, to take that initiative, to say, hey, I'm willing to stand in the breach because we're trying to, provide this value, provide this utility.
yeah, and I would say that any XRP ledger token that hasn't published, I'm not saying it's a hit piece on you, but I would encourage you to do so now. Follow our lead, publish an official position, make it known, because if XRP loses and XRP ledger tokens suddenly become securities, you probably just lost everything in your company or your blockchain or whatever your project is. So you don't have anything to lose by coming forward and stating a position that you weren't going to lose if you didn't. So, speak up.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you kind of have a similar take on NFTs right now?
So I see the value of NFTs moving forward. In
Right.
my mind, I typically relate those to the metaverse and Ready Player One, the movie. Great movie to watch if you're interested in where NFTs could eventually end up. I think that right now the majority of them are, there's so many of them flooding the market, just like every other cryptocurrency, and some will be collectible and the majority will be junk. So I don't actually own a single NFT yet.
Neither do I. Neither do I.
I do see the value proposition there in
Yeah.
the future.
And I'm excited because I think you guys have some NFTs planned for the Reaper ecosystem too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We do.
Okay, so let's transition into Reaper Financial. We are running at about an hour right now, so I want to give you some time definitely to talk about Reaper. So let's get into that. So you gave us at the very beginning a quick kind of rundown of what you guys are trying to do. Maybe if you want to restate that and explain just real quickly what the basis of your project is.
So basically what Reaper Financial does is we are an inflationary asset. We're doing everything contrary to the way that people think it should be done. So instead of being a black hole locked in total token available, we are an inflationary asset, and we inflate by no more than 1% per month. And then what we do with that 1% is we sell it onto market to the buy orders for RPR. So that gives them a chance to accumulate in a larger amount. And what the RPR is right now is it's a vote on where we take those proceeds and we buy and burn or black hole or destroy other cryptocurrencies. And like I said earlier, it sounds ominous, but what we're really doing is we're putting a whale buy order into another currency, and that because it's destroyed, that whale is never going to sell. So we exercised our utility on New Year's Day, which was Quake Token, which is a great charity token out of the Philippines. They do good work. We bought up 47,000 XRP worth, and we sent it to the issuing address, which is basically, because it's a black hole address itself, it destroyed 669 million Quake tokens permanently, which, it's, most people don't want to destroy value. I want to show value by destroying things. So that's a little bit of how it works.
It's a very interesting idea. There's nothing like this in the space. I haven't. Is there anyone doing something like this? Do you know of?
Not yet. I'm sure we'll have copycats as we become more successful. Right now, we're already up about 3,000, 3,500% since launch. And
Yeah.
that's about 3 4 weeks. So
Nice. Yeah. Okay, so the first reaping occurred right at the beginning of this year. It was on X Quake, and that was successful. 47.
yes,
You did, what do you say? 47,000 XRP worth of Quake.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and so I was listening to your AMA posted on your YouTube, getting a background, kind of answering my some of my questions. But let's explain how this is going to go. So every month, the token holders of Reaper will be able to vote which coins they want to burn. And you said that it can be 1 to 5 tokens potentially. It doesn't have to be just one.
Yeah, so right now we're doing one at the end of the month, and what we want to do is transition from one at the end of the month into doing 4 per month, which will be instead of 1% of the Reaper total market cap, it will be 0.25% to each burn as our market cap allows. And then we'll be doing one basically every week, and then we'll go from 1 token up to 2, 3, 4, 5 as our market cap grows. So we'll be going out and buying and burning what the Reaper holders are voting for. And what that does is with Quake, for example, just from the time the voting started till the reaping, their price increased by 250% in about 36 hours.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that ended up going on. So basically, there was a run up once it was announced that Quake was going to be the one that got reaped. That's when the price started to run up, and then right,
Yeah, so it actually started just from the voting.
just from the voting. Okay, correct. Okay,
Yeah.
and then after the reaping occurred, what happened?
So Quake dumped, and
Right.
that was because one of their whales basically dumped the price as the reaping happened. What that still does is there's still 669 million Quake tokens out of the ecosystem. That whale will probably never be able to buy that same amount that they dumped back for that same price. And so right now, Quake, it took about 2 weeks, and they returned to the pre-reaping price or base floor, but now it would be reasonable to say that they're oversold because there's less supply at the same price as before.
I see.
So for a potential investor, that's now a bullish scenario because they know that that's oversold.
Right. And I think that it's worth kind of clarifying. So yes, you guys are inflating by 1%, but what like 97% of that is going to be burned, right? So really, you're only inflating by what 0.03%, because after you reap, there you
Well,
and
also
then
to clarify that, Reaper token still inflates by 1%. 97% of those proceeds for selling the Reaper token is what we use to
oh,
reap. 3% is currently for our operating expense. And that model is going to have an update coming probably within a month. We're looking at adding in DeFi options.
now okay. So I was listening. There's going to be a 12-hour notice before the reaping occurs. So when does the voting ends right now at the end of the month, and then
It's 12 hours prior to midnight on Eastern Standard Time at the end of the month. So on 31 January at noon Eastern Standard Time, the voting will end, and speculators, buyers, traders have 12 hours to go and trade that reaping before it happens. And regardless of what the price reaches, we will go and buy that 97% of the 1% at market value, whatever those sell orders are. So if it was $1 million for the lowest token on there and we could only buy half of it, we're still doing it. We're still burning it.
and you guys are using the Zum wallet and the Solo Dex to verify Reaper holdings, who actually owns Reaper, right?
So not the Solo Dex isn't necessarily involved in that right now. So it's going to be the XM wallet. So they'll be able to log on to our website. They'll see their different options for voting. It'll pop up with a QR code that they'll scan with their XM wallet, and that will cast their vote. At the 12 hours to midnight mark, we take a snapshot, and that snapshot is going to show the balance of Reaper in their account, and that will reflect their vote, and we will know who won.
So what coins are you guys thinking of reaping this coming month?
So right now we have a list of 20, and we had our first two basically qualifiers on Twitter, which is, it doesn't mean that they're getting reached, but just a marketing ploy essentially to help those tokens be aware that they are eligible. So the first qualifier was XR Doge, actually.
Nice.
And yeah, the second one was XRP Treasuries, or XRPL Treasury, which is a gaming token.
Mm.
And we have next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we'll have two more polls, and then the Saturday after that, and that will be our 5 qualifiers to vote from for the end of this month. But this is the last month where we'll be using a Twitter poll as part of our interface. We're just doing that to reach basically the XRP ledger and help make them aware that this is a service we're providing that they could use in the future.
This is very exciting because as a token holder or people who run these projects, it's like you see your reaping coming, right? Like that, just that excitement alone. That's pretty interesting how that works.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is so far, without fail, when we've been seeing red throughout the rest of the market, we've been seeing green for the tokens that are either being voted for, or during the reaping, we've been able to create our own bull markets and bear markets based off of our reaping schedule. So what that will do is, as we do go into the bear market, Reaper will become a safe haven, and it will be able to create tradable events, which is whether you want to trade to acquire more Reaper, or if you want to trade the target token. Whatever it is, we're creating a new ecosystem for that volatility.
Right. So, to clarify, who will Reaper benefit?
Everybody.
Everybody.
So the REAP token benefits in that they get a lot of retention out of being the REAP token. They're going to get new holders out of it. They're going to get tradable events. Generally, from what we've seen, and it strongly suggests that in the future it will continue, is they'll have a significant price movement just from being eligible for reaping. So on that sense, it will help to both thin out the oversupplied tokens, the ones that are out there with 1 trillion tokens for something that just doesn't have any reason to have 1 trillion. And it will help those holders of that token to have an opportunity to get out of it if they need to, with a reasonable amount. So really, this shouldn't ever hurt anybody in the ecosystem.
Are you guys just doing XRP Ledger tokens right now, or are you guys going to do other ones?
So we started on XRP Ledger in January with the Quake, and now we've got about, out of the 20 that we've listed, 19 of those are XRP Ledger. One is Banca, because we just like it as a team, because we were studying it years back.
Is your team picking the coins that are up for the poll? Your team's picking them?
We have so far, yes. So basically, we have a criterion which they must meet a 70-point scale up to 100 to be eligible for reaping, and that's just for investor protection, so that they're not investing in something that could be a rug pull and possibly pull the rug just before the reaping, and then they're left holding the bag, and we're left having to choose what to do at that point. So just to protect the investors, there's a rating scale.
Now, is it one vote per Reaper coin that you hold?
Yes, so 1 Reaper equals 1 vote, and then if you have 1 million Reapers, you get 1 million votes.
Okay, awesome. Let's see, the first Reaping, yes. Have you received any pushback? Resistance?
Yeah. There's been pushback here and there. And it's, people that for the most part, they haven't read the white paper, which is only 2 pages. It's nothing too complicated, or they just don't understand the concept, or, there's always going to be those people who took absolutely 0 seconds to research and just throw out one word and it's scam, and they go run under their rock and hide some more, or whatever they do.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. And so, okay, let's get into the Reaper NFTs. What's your guys' plan there?
So our plan is basically because, as you know, there's 15,000 or so cryptocurrencies out there. So every time we go and reap a cryptocurrency for the first time, there'll be a one of one Reaper NFT for that cryptocurrency. So at some point when we reap Bitcoin, there'll be only that one NFT, never more than that. And we're going to auction those off, hopefully on Sologenics Marketplace. I hope they have it up and running soon.
Yeah.
Because we'd like that to be on the XRP ledger somewhere.
Yeah. Where can you buy Reaper token right now? Is it just solo decks or?
So you can do it on any of the XRP dexes. You can do it on Sologenic, and we have a BitTrue listing coming shortly. We have already paid a listing fee and sent over a price pool of about 10 times what they usually have for a prize pool for staking to list a token. So we expect that by the end of the month we'll be up and running on BitTrue.
Any plans metaverse? Any act? I mean, obviously the NFTs are coming. Any metaverse action going on?
So I see, a little bit of a glimpse of an image of fun in the metaverse coming in the far future. To me, I think metaverse is very investable right now, but I don't think that it's very realistic for another 10 to 15 years. It's not going to be Ready Player One for another 10 to 15 years. Once it gets there, could there be an army of Reapers running out into a crowd to get rid of a whole bunch of junk or whatever it is with their size? That'd be pretty awesome. I think there's potential for that.
Right. Okay. Staking Reaper. I was asking about that.
Yep. So we're looking at DeFi options, and it won't necessarily be staking. One of those options is essentially that you would be able to loan out your vote. So someone wouldn't have to buy the whole Reaper token, but if the person holding Reaper doesn't necessarily want to vote that month, they could rent out their vote to somebody for a fraction of the cost of the Reaper. And that would be one option. Another option is essentially what we want to do is something similar to our 1% right now, but cutting it in half as we pass a $200 million valuation. So half of that would go towards an interest-bearing account, which would be then built on every single month, and that interest would be airdropped to Reaper holders. So then we'd still be reaping $1 million plus a month, and we'd also be kind of replacing a brokerage or a money market, in that as you hold Reaper, it's going to snowball over time, and it's going to continue to pay more and more interest into your account.
Nice. That's interesting. Okay. Is there anything that I haven't brought up on Reaper that you would like to mention for the audience?
So yeah, just a future aspect. So Reaper, at this point in time, we're a XRP Ledger token, and we're a small scale token, and we're having some success, and that's great. But that's not really where my mind is at with Reaper token. My mind is at with Venezuela having a overinflated currency in which their currency bolivar was flooding the streets. What would have happened if, for example, the Federal Reserve or whoever it was, Reaper token, had been able to step in, buy a significant portion of their currency, and destroy it instead of it staying in circulation? Would that have stopped people from plummeting into poverty, stopped them from starving to death? And I think the answer is yes. Could we have prevented the housing crisis, theoretically, by reducing the number of houses for sale and therefore supporting the price where it was? And the answer is yes, if we had bought up a certain number of houses and took them off the market. So that is where I see Reaper going in the future, is as basically a balance to global economies, as we tokenize things like debts and other stocks and assets, but we'll be tokenizing debts and liabilities. So for example, student loans. What happens when the voters of Reaper say, okay, we want to go buy those student loan tokens, and those are what we want to reap, and we can start paying for them in the same way you would a student loan can be sold between other companies, or a mortgage can be sold between other companies, and we can destroy them. So I see that as a long-term functionality of the Reaper to basically become an asset that can both be a passive income to investors, but also it could be used to pay off their debts.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the idea of that, and basically protecting against something being overinflated down the road. Yeah, that's
exactly.
interesting.
Reduce the bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've been rolling. Do you want to do questions, or you got to run?
Sure. We can do questions. I got time.
Okay.
Um,
Let's give the
you have,
listeners an opportunity to answer some questions here. I have 127 on the YouTube stream. We have another 100 or so on TikTok. So if you guys have any good questions, send them through and we will ask Patrick. Yeah, Patrick, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us this explanation on Reaper, giving us your thoughts on the overall cryptocurrency space. I like what you have to say about XRP. I'm kind of down the similar idea mindset of what I see with XRP. We're kind of just waiting for the utility to be unlocked there. We're waiting for the cryptocurrency space to mature. There's very good things coming down the road for us. But yeah, like I agree with you that it's going to be a little bit shaky here once regulations drop. The overall macroeconomics this year are a little frightening, but I think that there's good things coming. So I really appreciate you doing that. Let's see if we got anything here. Thoughts on XLM?
Yeah, I don't honestly have any thoughts on XLM. I think it was one of the first, to be based off of XRP, and that's great. And I think they have a market, but it's honestly neither here nor there for me.
Yeah. We have someone, Nicole, saying, please let him know we appreciate the airdrop, still holding and have purchased more Reaper. So and that's from my community. So yeah, we've been excited with your work, man. Yeah. What else we got? What happens when central banks fail or fall? What do you think? The central bank's going to disappear?
Countries fall, and people go to war, and it's always ugly. And usually, the strongest are the ones who take over in the short term after that, and that's typically the military, and usually it looks like a dictatorship. So it's not something we want.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to know what your largest crypto holding is. I don't know if you're comfortable saying that.
Sure, it's Reaper token.
Well, we like to see that. Thoughts on XDC?
Which one?
XDC.
I'm not familiar.
Not familiar. Okay. Yeah, guys, we're not going to ask him his thoughts on every little coin out here, but
Yeah, I don't know all of them.
Yeah. But I'm trying to see if we have anything else good coming in. Reaper is the same as Grim Finance. Have you heard of Grim Finance?
So Grim Finance is something else. They unfortunately they do share our namesake. They released a little bit before us, but after we started planning, it's it's unfortunate, but they do something completely different. So
yeah. Different product. Okay. Please ask him his opinion again on the cryptos for 2022. Recap what you think here is going to happen this year in the crypto space.
Yeah, so I think we'll see a good bull run up to 200 plus 218,000 for Bitcoin. I think there'll be a massive inflow, and then I think there's a fair chance Tether collapses that, and we'll see the end of the SEC lawsuit against Ripple, which will then take over as the number one cryptocurrency, while Bitcoin and the majority of others retreat.
So you are basically saying that XRP has a good chance of missing this bear market if that case gets settled up.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you think the XRP is going to be running up when you're suspecting that the rest of the space is going to be running up, or do you think that they will still keep it suppressed?
I think it could still run up to 10 to 15 range, even as it's suppressed. I don't see that as being an issue on the macros. It's still in a large flag. It's about to touch its bottom and touch off. It's there right now. So I don't see that as impossible at all in the short term.
Yeah. Real quick, I meant to ask you, when did you get started in crypto?
Back in, it was 2014 originally, and then 2017, I really decided that it was what I wanted to focus on. I had a Shelby GT500 back then, because, soldiers and their bad decisions in financing expensive cars. I went and I sold it, and I got a check from the dealership, and I put that in a couple Bitcoin back then, and that was my start.
Nice. So someone asked, how large or small is the Reaper development team, and in what areas is Reaper focused on for improvement?
Yep. So our team right now is 3 founders. We have a chief of creative design, our own artist, and then we have 4 board members and a couple moderators that are helping us out as well. So we're about 10 people roughly right now. And then as far as focusing on improvement, we really need to bring in more programmers, API integration, and that's where we need to get to moving forward. So our developer is strong, but not necessarily a blockchain developer. So we've been getting some help. Shout out to XRPL fact checker. So
Cool.
He's been helping us out. I'd love to bring him on board permanently if we can. Just saying. But we'll try to bring in more programmers so that we can automate more of our systems, and eventually our 2 to 3 year goal is to make it so that every vote is going to count, because no matter who you vote for, an API will custody your reaping vote to go and buy some of that token and destroy it, regardless of how much Reaper token you hold. So that way, if you're invested in something that's terrible and you happen to hold a 1,000 Reaper token, you could, from the airdrop, you could always vote for that same terrible token and get out of it, because it's always going to be buying the sell orders.
Nice. Well, I want to wrap this up. Patrick, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us this explanation, all your thoughts. I love the fact that you're not afraid to touch on some subjects. I really respect that. I like the project here that you guys are working on. Let's get your closing statement and your closing thoughts.
So I would just say, as willing to go out and touch on the other side of things, that success is always on the other side of fear. And the philosophy behind the Reaper is about life and death. And, we don't fear death because it's a guarantee. So we're willing to speak out. We're willing to try because the worst thing we could possibly do is not try.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Love it. Well, I appreciate that we were able to make this connection. I think this was a great conversation that the community will enjoy. We'll be in touch. I'll be watching things. I may pick up some Reaper. I don't have any right now, but I may go pick up a couple and vote, try to destroy Dogecoin or something silly like that. But yeah.
I look forward to Elon Musk tears.
I love it. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
And
Thank you.
yeah, we'll be in touch. Take care, Patrick.
All right. Take care.
We'll see ya.
All right. I just stopped the live stream.
Awesome. I'm
All right.
gonna end TikTok. Let me end my YouTube. YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Okay, if you guys could hit that thumbs up for us, this will be reposted, and I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you.